Honorable judges, worthy opponents, and esteemed colleagues, I stand before you today to assure you that President Barack Obama deserves to be reelected based on his accomplishments in foreign policy. Of his accomplishments, I will discuss 5. Obama has promoted democracy across the world. He has brought an end to American involvement in Iraq, helped to disintegrate al-Qaeda leadership, and made significant advances towards nuclear disarmament, and has reestablished the United States' role as a leader in Asia. Where has he promoted democracy? President Obama has promoted democracy in Egypt, Libya, and Sudan. While Egyptian protesters demonstrated against President Mubarak, he repeatedly called for Egyptian authorities to respect the rights of the protesters and worked with Egyptian counterparts to set out steps for an orderly transition of power. As lives of democratic protesters were threatened by Gaddafi's regime, President Obama mobilized a militia coalition to protect the pro-democracy movement and executing a no-fly zone across Libya. In addition, he joined other nations to execute NATO airstrikes, which helped save the lives of rebels. Finally, President Obama aided the formation of a free democratic Southern Sudan, assisting in negotiations and appointing a special envoy for Sudan. Secondly, Obama effectively ended the U.S. operations in Iraq, bringing the end to loss of American lives, and allowing the U.S. to refocus its counterterrorism attack on Afghanistan. This will lower the total U.S. government cost of operation in Iraq from $65.1 billion in 2008 to $11 billion in 2012. Third, President Obama is responsible for the disintegration of much of al-Qaeda's leadership. First, he had ordered the attack on Osama bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, which killed the al-Qaeda leader, and then ordered the drone strike that killed Anwar al-Khalili, one of al-Qaeda's most formidable voices in spreading propaganda and recruiting foreign fighters. Next, Obama made significant advances towards nuclear disarmament, while the Republic of Iran is increasingly moving towards a weaponized program, and the Obama administration has helped hinder its progress through new rounds of multilateral sanctions. For example, in July 2010, President Obama signed the Comprehensive Iran Sanctions Accountability and Divestment Act of 2010, which banned all of Iranian origin imports. In Russia, Obama signed a new strategic arms reduction treaty called START in order to reduce the warhead missiles in both countries. This represents a 30% reduction from the 2002 Treaty of Moscow. And finally, in 2010, Obama said that U.S. will not use or threaten the use of nuclear weapons to non-nuclear states that are party to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Finally, President Obama has reestablished the United States' role as a leader in Asia, and by institutionalizing the U.S. presence in the Asia-Pacific region through membership in the East Asia Summit, where he will be the first U.S. American president to attend. Moreover, President Obama has opened up trade with Asia in the form of a free trade agreement with South Korea and the promotion of a new Trans-Pacific Free Trade Agreement. Finally, President Obama has opened a new military base in Australia as a symbol of the United States' continuing leadership. All of these points point to why President Obama deserves to be reelected. His accomplishments show the strength of the United States in the world, in the international community. Thank you.
We will now hear the first negative constructive speaker, Ms. Erin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable judges, my worthy opponents, and colleagues. President Barack Obama's government centralized healthcare reform plan, popularly known as Obamacare, will increase insurance premiums by 55 to 85%. Signed into law by the President in March 2010, it will not be in full effect until 2014. Its total cost could reach up to $6 trillion, and it will only increase the number of insured Americans by 7.9%. To begin, in addition to decreasing tax breaks, Obamacare will increase American taxes on Medicare, high-cost health plans, and businesses to finance the plan. It is estimated that the economy will suffer a loss of goods and services that equates $706 billion. The Congressional Budget Office warns that 800,000 jobs will be lost as a result. Most minimum wage salaries currently have been around $15,000, but with the government-mandated healthcare standards under Obamacare, this figure will increase to $27,500. Businesses that fail to provide employees these benefits will face a punishment of higher taxes, eliminating any company's incentive to create new jobs. Next, Obamacare projects a $674 billion expansion to Medicaid, a subsidized program originally intended for poor Americans who cannot afford their own health insurance. Under Obamacare, Americans who retire early and who do not receive Medicare until 65 years of age will be the newly covered middle-class Medicaid receivers. It will be nearly impossible to provide the estimated 35 to 40 million new Medicaid patients. Lastly, Obamacare violates personal freedoms, state rights under the 10th Amendment and the Commerce Clause of the Constitution. Simply put, Obamacare forces Americans to buy a product they may not want, they may not need, nor can they afford. Families that do not acquiesce with the law will face an annual fee of $700. Within just the last week, President Obama added onto the legislation, which is already over 10,000 pages, by requiring all religious institutions to provide contraception coverage to employees, which violates the constitutional right of religious freedom. Catholic League leader Bill Donahue warned Obamacare is unprecedented in American history and that it is going to be fought out with lawsuits, court decisions, and maybe even in the streets. Already ruled unconstitutional in several courts of appeal, the Supreme Court will judge the fairness and constitutionality of Obamacare next month. In conclusion, American citizens, businesses, and state rights need to be protected. Obamacare's centralized government management plans is one of the many reasons that Barack Obama does not deserve to be reelected as president. Thank you.
We will now hear our second affirmative constructive speaker, Ms. Carolyn Tracy.
Good morning, judges and esteemed colleagues. When President Obama's Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is in full swing, 95% of Americans will have health insurance. The Affordable Care Act will benefit individuals in ways that the current healthcare system has never been able to do. First, insurance companies will no longer be able to apply the same limits on their policies. Those who have chronic diseases such as cancer will no longer face limited coverage based solely on their conditions. Insurance companies will no longer be able to apply annual limits, also known as caps, so the coverage will be there when patients need it most. In addition, children and elders who often face the serious critical treatment will now seriously reap the benefits of this new healthcare plan. Children will no longer be denied healthcare based off of previous conditions until they're 19 years old. And elders who normally spend thousands of dollars out of pocket on prescription drugs will no longer have to do so. Obama hopes to close this donut hole by 2020 by spending $10 billion and giving it to drug companies. But what is needed most is revolution. This will come with a new healthcare system when benefits are included that are often thought normal but healthcare companies neglected to include. Healthcare companies will no longer be able to drop clients when they become sick based off of a simple mistake in their paperwork. In addition, people will be able to choose their primary care provider instead of being stuck with one of the doctors that the healthcare company provides them. In addition, preventative care will be necessary. Things like mammograms, colonoscopies, immunizations, and prenatal care will be tools available to everyone. Those who refuse to abide by the laws of the Affordable Care Act will face serious repercussions. Companies larger than 50 who refuse to supply their employees with health insurance will have to pay $2,000 per employee. But tax credits of up to $40 billion will be given to small companies to help them start insurance plans. State programs such as Medicaid will be increased in order to help cover patients and pay for doctors. In addition, states who have already increased their Medicaid without federal prompting will receive additional funding. Since this public health care will be available to all, if the private sector of healthcare companies wishes to keep their clientele, they will need to seriously reform their current policies and supply better service to their clients. These companies must make their policies better than those of the Affordable Care Act if they wish to keep afloat. This is one of the many reasons Obama should be re-elected this year. Thank you.
We will now hear our second negative constructive speaker, Ms. Ellie Ware.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman, esteemed teammates, judges, and worthy opponents. I am here to address today why Obama should not run for a second term of presidency. First, Obama's foreign policy action is hurting countries we are involved in, not helping them. Obama's quick withdrawal of troops from Iraq was a serious mistake. This 1.5-month retreat opened the door for Iran to gain influence over Iraq and left Iraq unprepared to handle and protect itself. How can we take a firm line against nuclear Iran while giving Tehran the single most important demand it has been pursuing for the past 9 years that we have been in Iraq? Iran can take advantage of the Iraqis' weak state and annex the Shiite areas, giving it more power and control in the Middle East, one of the last things that the U.S. wants. In addition, this retreat placed the stability and security of Iraq at risk, jeopardizing the gains the U.S. military made. One of which, in 2005, was when the Iraqis elected the transitional government to draft a permanent constitution under the U.S. guidance. This once stable government is now facing troubled times and turning against itself. On December 19, 2011, the day after the last U.S. troops left Iraq, Prime Minister Maliki issued an arrest warrant for the Vice President Tariq al-Assami. This movement risks unraveling the country's fragile power structure between the Sunnis, Shiites, and Kurds, creating more sectional unrest and leading to a possible civil war. This hasty removal of troops did not leave Iraq in a secure state to govern and defend itself from its neighbors. Obama may have risked all the gains in Iraq to keep his 2008 campaign promises of ending the war, but he has not kept his promises of helping fix our immigration problem. In a recent speech in El Paso, Texas, Obama stated, "Our border is secure." This means he believes that the 44%, according to the U.S. Border Control, that is under operational control, is sufficient. That is, 56% of unprotected border is left for illegal immigrants to cross over. It is estimated that only 1 in 4 illegal immigrants is crossing the border. That is not a secure border. Obama's one attempt at immigration was his DREAM Act in 2010. This, however, did not pass Congress. This act would have created a path for illegal immigrants to gain citizenship through service in the military and education in college.